A sellout crowd of over 44,000 filled Anaheim Stadium to see the return of Dodger star Shohei Ohtani. The Japanese icon played his first 6 seasons with the Angels. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Tavis is under attack. I can't get his radio station on my transistor. I'm getting the Asian station that he's right around, but they're not letting KBLA 1580 come in. I'm not getting the black man. So let Tavis know he's under attack. Cyber attack, racist attack, fascist attack, but he's under attack. And they doing something to disrupt his radio station so they won't get the truth out to us.
Hey, it's Tavis. We appreciate all that love, let me tell you, because we may very well be under attack on all sides. Just because you don't believe in conspiracy theories don't mean they ain't after you. But in reality, sometimes stuff happens with the signal from the studio to the tower, which sends our programming to your car, home, office, or your transistor radio. But when you download the KBLA 1580 app, the sound is clear as a bell all day, all night, anywhere in the world, from Los Angeles to Lagos. So we love all of our listeners, no matter how you hear us. But when you download the KBLA 1580 app and hear that richness, you'll wonder why you didn't do it sooner. But don't take my word for it. Download the KBLA 1580 app right now. I'm Tavis Smiley, and I approve this message. I'm Tavis Smiley, and I am thrilled to have you with us in this final hour of our program today. As promised in this hour, conversation right now with Deidre Asante Muhammad, president of the Joint Center for Political and Economic Studies, on their latest report, The Best Black Economy in Generations and Why It Isn't Enough. Deidre Asante Muhammad, good to have you back on this program. Sir, how are you today?
No, very good. Good to be on, and great to hear Melanie Allen on right before myself.
Oh, no.
I know I'm at the right place by the guest you have.
No, I appreciate that. I'm glad you heard her. She's doing some amazing work with High Fund. As you may know, we're in the midst of a year-long climate series on this program. I've committed myself to trying, as I said earlier, to raise the civic IQ of our people around these issues of climate. My view is pretty simple, Deidre. If we are now and for the foreseeable future going to be the disproportionate victims of these climate catastrophes, these climate maladies, then we ought to be at the epicenter of the conversation about it. And so for me, these issues are climate justice, climate equity, climate resilience, all represent the urgency of now. And so we are featuring all kinds of experts. Melanie, as a matter of fact, since you mentioned it, Melanie asked me a few moments ago, she said, Tavis, what has been most she asked me this off air. What has been most surprising to you about your climate justice work? And I said, that's a great question. And the simple answer is this. As long as I've been, doing what I do in the media, even I was to some degree in the dark about the robust nature of the fight back on behalf of black people. There are all kinds of black folk and all kinds of spaces regarding climate who are doing and have done some pretty amazing work. Melanie is just one of them. But when I started scratching the surface of all these black experts I wanted to have on to talk about every aspect of climate, I was sort of blown away by all these persons who've been doing this work for quite some time that even I was unaware of. So it's been a beautiful thing to see and to meet so many of these people who are doing some amazing work, fighting back against these climate issues that are impacting our community in strange ways. So it's good to know that you know who Melanie Allen is.
No, that's right. Because of people like Melanie Allen and Jackie Patterson of the Cheryl and Chizzy Legacy Project,
Sure.
who've been doing the environmental justice work for Black people for so long. I'm a little bit in the loop, and too, it's as it's becoming more and more clear, so much of America's spending is around climate issues, and it's a huge economic justice matter. That if we're going to spend this money to deal with climate justice, can we spend it in a way that actually, bridges this racial economic inequality that I've been focused on?
Indeed. All right, let me spend the rest of our time talking about this report. I've been anxious to get you on, to give you a chance to sort of unpack it and to ask you a few questions about it. So I'm glad we got an hour to talk about it. There's a whole lot in this report. Once again, it is the latest from the Joint Center for Political and Economic Studies, and the report is titled "The Best Black Economy in Generations and Why It Isn't Enough." Before I get into the details, let you get into the details and the data of the actual report, that title jumps out at you. The Best Black Economy in Generations. Is that true, Deidre Asante Muhammad?
Yes, it is. It is, and I'll go over some of the indicators that highlight it. And I also just want to know that this paper was done with the Center for Economic Policy and Research. So it's Joint Center and Center for Economic Policy Research coming together and worked with Algernon Austin, who I know you've had on the show several times, was co-author of this report. So I want to make sure that people know that his brilliance helped us produce this document.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, I mean, it's as someone who's been looking at racial economic inequality for a long time and oftentimes not finding much positive to write about, I did start, noticing, I'm looking at some record low black unemployment numbers. I'm looking at some record high wealth numbers. I'm looking at some record high income numbers. And putting it all together was noting, well, this is the strongest black economy that we've seen in generations. I can get, more into the details. But, it is not, just because you're the least broke you've ever been doesn't mean that you have a lot of money, right? And so I think that's the context you have to understand about the best black economy in generations.
I love it. We are now the least broke we've been in a long time. I love that. The least broke, but that does not mean that we don't still lag far behind in every single leading economic indicator category. Hence the report, The Best Black Economy in Generations and Why It Isn't Enough. We'll give Deidre Asante Muhammad some time for the rest of this hour to unpack the data to make the case that this is the best black economy in generations, and of course that latter part, what needs to be done still, because it ain't enough. You're listening to Deidre Asante Muhammad, and I'm glad about it on Tavis Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking. That's what we do around here. You're listening to Tavis Smiley. Tavis Smiley's new book, The Covenant with Black America, 20 years later, is now on sale everywhere. This classic text shot to #1 on the New York Times bestsellers list almost 2 decades ago. If you have the original book, you will surely want to get this 20th anniversary edition with powerful new contributions from today's leading voices. This 20th anniversary edition presents a compelling blend of historical insights and contemporary urgency in this critical and unprecedented election year. Get your copy of The Covenant with Black America, 20 years later, today.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
Hey, checking in?
This is not just your flu shot appointment at Walgreens.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is getting your entire family vaccinated in one trip.
Hey, Mom?
And a snack on the way out. Get flu shots for everyone in your family, together. Schedule appointments online today. This is wellness made easy. Walgreens.
Vaccine subject to availability and for ages 3+. State and health-related restrictions may apply.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my side softer?
Can I make my side firmer whenever I want?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. 94% of Sleep Number smart sleepers report better sleep. And now, during our biggest sale of the year, save 50% on the Sleep Number limited edition smart bed. Plus free home delivery on select smart beds when you add any base. Ends Labor Day. To find a store near you, visit sleepnumber.com.
Reggie was a nurse for 16 years.
I had become very burnt out. I wasn't making good money.
Then it happened.
There was an ad for My Computer Career, and it just spoke to me.
My Computer Career was the best decision he ever made.
I could study anywhere from my laptop, and I was working in the first couple weeks of me being in class.
Reggie hit a home run.
The field is teeming with jobs.
Become an IT pro in just months with zero experience at mycomputercareer.edu.
The school is amazing.
It's not rocket science. It's mycomputercareer.edu. This is one student's experience. Individual results vary.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in, but we're okay with that. You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
You are indeed with Deidre Asante Muhammad of the Joint Center for Political and Economic Studies. Their new report is out now. It's called The Best Black Economy in Generations and Why It Isn't Enough. We'll get to the latter part a little bit later. But now, Deidre, make the case for me. Why is this?
Yes,
how is this the best black economy in generations?
Well, one of the things that really stuck out to me was black unemployment rates. From 1972 to 2022, the annual black unemployment rate averaged near 12%, about 11.6%. Mm-hmm. In 2023, we hit this record low of 5.5%. Now, it has gone up a bit to around 6.2%, but nonetheless, these are still, very low level numbers of unemployment historically, and is something that I don't think enough people are understanding, thinking about, and not in the sense of we just need to celebrate. It's that whatever little momentum we have, we need to build upon that. So, actually, a lot of people would think only when you have high unemployment numbers do you want to deal with unemployment issues. No, actually, you want to deal with it when it's around 6% for African Americans. It's around 3.8% for whites. How do we maintain that level for whites and get blacks closer to that full employment zone of 4% or less? So, that was one of the things that really stood out to me. But I'll also just note that, in terms of income, income isn't super high, but it has gone up about 30% over the last 20 or so years. And so, actually, over the last 11 years. Median household income, now it's not individual, but household income is $53,000. In 2011, it was $41,000. So that is a substantive increase, particularly if you're making $41,000, $53,000 is a significant step up. Mm-hmm. So, I think, it's important to note that with the income, the unemployment, and even wealth, the number where we see the greatest disparity of with white Americans, and we still see the majority of African Americans in what I would call asset poverty. Nonetheless, we've seen that median household wealth for African Americans is about $45,000, and during 2013, it was $17,000. So again, these are significant raises, and looking at ridiculously high poverty rates of the 1960s, or even 20% poverty rates in the 1980s, I think it's important for us as a people and for policy people to understand not too long ago we were doing significantly worse. We have made some progress. The question is, how do we make progress and so we actually have some type of middle class security, which African Americans are still pretty far from.
Yeah, so those three issues we will talk about as we move through this hour: wealth, employment, and income. Let me start with the latter, income. Again, no naivete here, but what has been the reason or the rationale, the backstory is a better word, for why black income has been so suppressed?
So for why black unemployment has been, or black income has been so suppressed, I mean, I think it has been a mixture of that blacks have had very high unemployment rates. I think, this is getting a bit historical, but it really took the country as a whole, but I think black people in particular, decades to recover from the kind of deindustrialization of the economy, right? I mean, blacks moved from the South to the North for these good industrial jobs, which were never fully integrated to. We came to a lot of these major cities just as those jobs were disappearing, and there was no really strong place to go until the kind of deindustrialization had worked itself out. And you've seen since the 1970s, African Americans more and more moving out of the North, moving into the South, and as you've seen, some type of stronger economy over the last 10 years, African Americans have been able to benefit from that. There have been, efforts around stronger wages, as well as a stronger economy that has allowed blacks to have, lower unemployment rates, higher employment rates, and with the stronger minimum wage laws and these types of things, you can see this growth from 41,000 to 53,000 for a median black household.
Tell me more specifically about these record low poverty rates that you reference and address in the report.
Yeah, that was one of the things that caught my attention as I was writing a report last year around the hundreds of years it would take to still bridge income inequality and wealth inequality, and that gets more into why it isn't enough. But it really, shocked me or made me understand the depth of poverty that African Americans lived in, say, in 1960, where the majority of African Americans lived in poverty, right? And today, I think a three-person household is in poverty, and they're making around $13,000 for the household. So it's just a radically low amount of money. And now that we've seen that, it had a dramatic decrease during the war on poverty from around 52% to around 35%. And then we saw it kind of stay around 20% post the 80s, 90s. But now we've seen it, go down to some of these, record low levels over the last 5-10 years, where it's still significantly higher than white poverty rates. But nonetheless, it is, much less poverty than it was than, say, our parents' or grandparents' time.
Mm-hmm. These record low unemployment rates that you talk about in the report that you mentioned a few times in this conversation, what's driving that? And here's my point. If we know what's driving these record low unemployment numbers, that's a good thing, obviously. If we know what's driving that, then the answer is obviously to scale that up. Is that education? Is it something else? What's driving that? And again, if we understand that, then it makes sense, obviously, to sort of scale that up, whatever that is. You tell me, to the extent we can.
Yeah, well, and I would say, there has been, strength growth in education, but that's been over decades. Mm-hmm. And I don't think we can explain the 5.3%, 6% unemployment rate with educational attainment. I will say I think there was a breaking from what was people might say a neoliberal orthodoxy on, well, if as soon as the economy is getting a little too hot, we have to slow it down. We have to raise interest rates. We have to, we don't want too strong an economy. And I think we've seen over the last 3 or 4 years, whether it was Trump, who only knows how to put his foot on the gas pedal for anything, mm-hmm. Pushing the economy forward. And I think, with the kind of post-COVID situation where there was a need, I felt the need to invest a lot in the economy to make sure the economy doesn't go broke, that we have been putting the money into the economy, have been really pushing the economy forward and not pulling away from historically low unemployment rates. So I think that type of policy, whether it's from the Federal Reserve or whether it's from the president, we need to understand that we have to take much more seriously the Federal Reserve goal of full employment, which is generally considered to be at about 4%. Now, again, white Americans have been hitting lows around 3.3%, 3.5%, getting below full employment. We have to have a strong commitment of how we're going to get the black community for the first time into full employment. But, yeah, I think it is a rethinking of how the economy should work and making sure that blacks are included in this.
I hear this term all the time. I've heard it more times than I can count over the course of my career. You use it now, and that is this notion of full employment. Full employment. Obviously, it's a term, but is there such a thing as full employment? What do you guys mean when y'all say full employment?
Sure. Full employment is just understanding. Some people might say full employment would mean that there's zero unemployment, right?
Right.
But most economists will put forward that it's around 4%, meaning there's always going to be some people who are leaving their job, who are looking for another job, who might even get fired and are looking for a job. And there's going to be, some space for fluctuation. And so they're saying, the estimate is around 4% is a full employment situation where everyone, where most of the entire economy, our entire population can get a job or is in the space to get a job. And it's much more favoring of the employee versus the employer who has a whole bunch of employees to choose from because they're at a high unemployment rate. So again, it's been estimated around 4%, but I think even that is starting to be reconsidered since white Americans have been at some type of 3% unemployment rate for years now, which is beyond full employment.
Yep. I want to go intra Black America just for a second here and ask you, based on the data in this report and based on your work and research over these many years, Dietrich, how you would juxtapose, how you would square this notion of broad prosperity that a particular slice of the Black community is in fact experiencing, broad prosperity. How would you square that with the great economic insecurity that another slice, a more significant, a bigger slice of the African American community is still wrestling with? I mean, it's the same community, and yet the polars always fascinate me. That some are experiencing, as I said, significant, broad, great prosperity, while others are still mired in economic insecurity, and yet we're the same community.
Well, yeah, and actually I want to break that out a bit because I'm trying to note that, again, just because it's the strongest Black economy, it doesn't mean that you are in economic security.
Mm-hmm.
That is the important thing about, yes, $45,000 median wealth is the highest number of median wealth I've seen for decades. But yet it's been estimated in previous work that to approach middle class wealth, the kind of lower limit there is around $190,000 of wealth. So 45,000 is still very distant from 190,000, and I would still say the overwhelming majority of African Americans, even with this record high wealth, are in asset poverty, are in wealth poverty. So, that's how both of these things exist. It's like, yes, they're having, as a whole, the community is having record levels of wealth, but it's still one that keeps us in deep economic insecurity, and that's why it isn't enough. And we have to figure out how are we going to, make a record high at least into middle class wealth, and so there is some type of economic security in our community. I think that is the greatest challenge: is we have such widespread wealth poverty, even for higher income Black families.
We have known for a long time. I was going to say ad infinitum, but we've known for a long time that for most Americans, home ownership is the path to creating wealth. Is that still true writ large, and is that still true for African Americans? And if it is true for African Americans, what can you tell me about that? About this notion of wealth creation in our community as it relates to home ownership?
Yes, no, I do believe home ownership, is still the primary source of wealth for, most middle-class Americans. You will note that in this report, I don't talk about Black Americans having record high levels of home ownership or bridging home ownership inequality. African Americans have never gotten to 50% home ownership rate, while whites are around 73%. Blacks usually stay around 44, sometimes go up to 46%. So still the majority of African Americans are not homeowners. And I think, this is something that is being discussed in policy, but what can be done to really, move the African American community into majority home ownership? I previously did a paper about what would it take to get African Americans to 60% home ownership when I was with the organization NCRC, National Community Reinvestment Coalition. And we estimated it would take us, we'd have to double the amount of new Black homeowners and maintain that doubling for 20 years just to get African Americans at a 60% home ownership rate. So it's really going to have to do something radically different if we really want to increase Black home ownership and to substantially increase and maybe start moving Blacks out of asset poverty. I think home ownership is key. Though there are many other interesting programs being put forward by people like William Darity and Derek Hamilton, things like baby bonds and other such things, which I think also can be important movers wealth building. But I still think home ownership is central.
We're talking to Didrik Asante Muhammad, who is the president of the Joint Center for Political and Economic Studies, about their new report. It's called The Best Black Economy in Generations and Why It Isn't Enough. Back to his earlier point, which was somewhat funny, that just because you are the least broke does not mean you're on the good foot. But again, the report is called The Best Black Economy in Generations and Why It Isn't Enough, which leads me to ask whether or not whatever we are celebrating in this report about the best black economy in generations, has that happened? Or have we arrived at this place, while there's much more to be done, obviously, because of policies or just the mere passage of time? I mean, you expect over time that things would get better for us. You work hard over time. You hope that that life gets a little brighter for you. But are we in this space now owing to particular economic policies? And if so, what does that look like?
Well, yeah, I would definitely have to say policies, because it was policies that made us in radical income poverty, radical wealth poverty, and so people understand the civil rights movement, a lot of the civil rights movement or black freedom movement of the mid-20th century was taking down policies that prohibited African Americans from access to employment opportunities or from different type of financial tools or these types of things. So that in itself was a policy that's taken generations to trickle down to a larger part of the community. Even educational access, these types of things strengthen us a bit. I think and again, poverty, we saw a rapid decline in poverty with the war on poverty. I just find it fascinating. People want to dismiss, or historically have dismissed, the war on poverty as a failure. But when I saw that it went from 52% poverty rate to 35% poverty rate, well, that's an improvement. Like, I'll take it. Like, I love substantial declines in poverty. So I do think poverty has been at the center, and I think that's why, whether it's Republicans or Democrats, are discussing what type of policy is needed now to help the weakened American middle class as a whole.
I got 60 seconds here right now. We'll continue when we come forward, of course. But since you went there, I want to follow you. I've been fascinated by this for years. Why do you think it is, again, no naivete here either, but why is it that broadly speaking, people do, in fact, as you said earlier, regard the war on poverty during the LBJ years as a failure, an abject failure, some regard it as?
Yeah. No, I think two things. I think one, it's mostly was used as a political tool, that people that wanted to say that government could do nothing right and wanted to push back against some of the progressive policies that came out of the 60s, they had to say that everything failed. And so they said that with poverty. And then as well, I think it can be some type of misunderstanding that just because you didn't get to 0% poverty rate didn't mean your policy failed, right? Again, if you had a big decrease, but you still have an issue, there still was some progress there. And again, that's kind of the importance of this report. It's trying to show progress, but we still have a big problem. And how are we going to build off of this?
The report is called The Best Black Economy in Generations and Why It Isn't Enough. The president of the Joint Center for Political and Economic Studies is our guest in this hour, Didrik Asante Muhammad. More with him when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know? The United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time. Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Dalton, Illinois' embattled mayor is taking action despite trustees canceling a meeting. African-American Mayor Tiffany Henyard appointed a new village administrator and new village attorney last night, even after the meeting was canceled due to a lack of trustees. Overdoses from antidepressants have been steadily rising for the past 2 decades. An analysis of data from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention shows that they've been increasing about 2% a year between 1999 and 2022. The Mega Millions jackpot is now up to $740 million. Nobody matched all 6 numbers in last night's drawing for $680 million, so the grand prize in the nationwide lottery will roll over to Friday's drawing. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. At Blindster, we offer custom-made faux wood and real wood blinds and shutters, cellular shades, Roman shades, bamboo shades, exterior shades, and more, all at factory direct prices. Don't pay too much for new blinds. Go to Blindster.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Francis Tiafoe is edging closer to his first Grand Slam tennis championship. The 26-year-old African-American star advanced to the semifinals of the U.S. Open. Tiafoe was leading Grigor Dimitrov of Bulgaria when Dimitrov quit the match in the 4th set because of an injury. Tiafoe had a 4-1 lead in the 4th set and had won 2 of the first 3 sets. The native of Hyattsville, Maryland, will play fellow American Taylor Fritz in Friday's semifinals. Tiafoe is trying to become the first African-American male to win the U.S. Open since Arthur Ashe in 1968. He's also trying to become the first American male to win the U.S. Open since Andy Roddick in 2006. Mookie Betts hit a 3-run homer in the 10th inning to spark the Dodgers to a 6-2 win over the Angels Tuesday night in Anaheim. A sellout crowd of over 44,000 filled Anaheim Stadium to see the return of Dodger star Shohei Ohtani. The Japanese icon played his first 6 seasons with the Angels. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey, I am D.L. Hughley, host of the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show, heard weekdays from 2 to 4 exclusively on KBLA Talk 1580. I promise to make you think a little, but laugh a whole lot more. So tune in to the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show 2 to 4 only on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Race, culture wars, political turf battles, criminal justice and injustice, the courts. These are the conversations you won't hear elsewhere. My guests are leading journalists, celebrities, and sports figures, elected leaders, and influencers. They aren't afraid to get into it and say the quiet part out loud. With Areva Martin in real time, your commute just became the most engaging part of your day. Tune in weekdays from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. or find us on YouTube. Areva Martin in real time, when you want it straight, no chaser.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. The moment we've all been waiting for has finally arrived. On Tuesday, September 10th at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump will square off in their first ever presidential debate. KBLA Talk 1580 and the Empowerment Congress are hosting a viewing party, and we're inviting you to join us for an evening of civic engagement, great food, and good vibes. Our studio space is limited, but if you would like to join us, just go to our website at KBLA1580.com and register for your chance to watch this historic presidential debate with us. Years from now, we're all likely to remember exactly where we were when this pivotal moment in American politics unfolded. So, register for your chance to join us by going to KBLA1580.com right now. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
He's a paradigm pioneer.
are the top-rated African-American talk show hosts in the nation, according to Talkers Magazine. You're tapped in with Tavis Smiley right now.
Tavis Smiley and Deidre Gasanti Muhammad, who's the president of the Joint Center for Political and Economic Studies. Their latest report is called The Best Black Economy in Generations and Why It Is Not Enough. A couple things I want to get to right now, Deidre. I'm just watching our time here. I think the first thing is this, that we are in the midst, obviously, of a major historic presidential election. There'll be long-term ramifications, of course, of whatever direction this country moves in. But it's clear, as your report details, that African-American voters continue to place economic issues at the core of our concerns versus the social issues that these days are dominating the headlines. Say a word to me about that dichotomy, if you will, that we put these economic concerns at the top of our agenda, but so many social issues are what's driving the political narrative right now in this race for the White House.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, just in general, how often people try to make issues around race and racial inequality a social issue and not an economic issue. And throughout my career, I've been trying to highlight that the foundation of racial inequality is racial economic inequality. The foundation of racial economic inequality is the racial wealth divide. So I think that's been our lived experience. And I think that's also why some people, will point to the African American community and they think, because we've embraced progressive economics, that we have to embrace progressive social theory in every manifestation. And that's not true, not just for black people. Poor people as a whole generally embrace some type of progressive economics, and that means helping to get people out of poverty, help to give people opportunity. And, we see this. We have a kind of series of reports called Data for Black America. We did a report called Pessimism and Hope, a survey of the financial status and aspirations of black Americans that was showing how it's an interesting space that African Americans were seeing some personal hope in their own economic situation, but still had a deep pessimism about whether about the country actually bridging inequality and whether the economy as a whole would advance in a positive way. So I think our complicated history has allowed us to have that complicated perspectives on our socioeconomic reality.
Complicated is a good word, because what I want to pose now rather, is a bit complicated for many people. So let me just go right at it. I want to read now from your report. Even as the country faces a backlash around issues titled diversity, equity, and inclusion, the reality is that without a strong, targeted approach to increase economic advancement for African Americans, black people will continue to be economic second-class citizens. That's the language from your report. I want to pick that apart in 2 or 3 ways. Number one, before I get to the targeting of black economic malaise, this first question about diversity, equity, and inclusion, better known as DE&I. How does the backlash, the attack on those kinds of corrective programs impact the data set you've given us?
Well, I think, it's interesting because DEI, I think it's kind of almost became like critical race theory. Right? Critical race theory was an actual, theory that was kind of, fairly complicated, detailed, very interesting legal theory. Derek Bell and others put it forward, but people were critiquing critical race theory, just meaning that it was a racial politic they didn't like. And I think similarly with diversity, equity, inclusion, it became some type of social vision or social vision or social advocacy that people were pushing back upon. But I think at the same time that you could have conversations with people who are very much against DEI, but would be very interested in advancing a job program in a high employment area that's even in a black community, right? And so you could have conversations that some of us who might be more supportive of DEI would think is a DEI program, but the whole phrase has become part of a culture war that really blurs, well, what are we talking about? Are you against trying to strengthen the economics of communities that have, generationally have high unemployment? And, many liberals and conservatives would say, yeah, we should do some type of work around that. And so, how do we move forward on that? So that's why I'm highlighting that, I think people feel that with the attack on DEI, that means we can't do anything to address racial economic inequality. And, I don't believe that is true. But I do also understand that even when the country was celebrating DEI, we weren't seeing all of a sudden a radical bridging of the racial wealth divide. It's more than kind of titles and names. It's actual policy investments that will last generations to deal with this generations of racial inequality, which is based in economics.
I want to move now to this notion of targeting whatever approach there's going to be to increase economic advancement for African Americans. Let me give me a minute or so here to share a quick story, and you'll understand why I'm doing this. And you were around then, so you'll recall this. We were talking earlier in today's program about the Covenant Black America book that I compiled and edited, came out 20 years ago, shot to #1, stayed there for a number of weeks. I'm literally on a book tour as we speak right now for the Covenant of Black America 20 years later. So that book is out now, and I'm touring for that book even as we speak. I raise that primarily because the Covenant comes out before Barack Obama shows up. And everybody in Black America is on the same page. This book gets sold millions of copies. Everybody understands that we now have a black agenda, as it were, that we're going to hold folk accountable to when we get to the 2008 election, given that George Bush, just a couple years prior, had left black folk to die on rooftops in Katrina. There's a whole story. I can go from 2000 to 2008 about the ways in which black people were disenfranchised, starting in 2000 with the Supreme Court helping Bush steal the election, and black folk were disenfranchised when Al Gore does not become president. There are a number of things, again, between 2000 and 2008 before Obama wins this historic election. But the Covenant is one of those things that seeded the ground. Everybody had the book. We're all ready to hold folk accountable to our agenda until Barack Obama shows up. And the book is #1, but I start catching hell. People are pushing back on me, saying, don't ask Barack Obama tough questions. Don't press him on this black agenda. I'm like, hold up. I thought we had an agenda here that we were going to make everybody accountable to. And here's the point. Barack Obama said repeatedly and got away with it that I am not the president of Black America. I'm the president of all of America. Whenever you pressed him on anything black, that was his retort. I'm the president of all America. And everybody in Black America fell for that then, but that was his retort. Here's my point. Now here we are 15 years later. Kamala Harris is running for president, and I'm waiting to see if we're going to get the same response when we start pressing her on a black agenda. That I am not the president of Black America, I'm the president of all of America. And yet your report argues that without, these are your words, without a strong, targeted approach to increase economic advancement for African Americans, black people will continue to be economic second-class citizens. How do we get the president, if it's Kamala Harris, to advance a strong and targeted approach to increase black economic advancement if the retort is going to be, I ain't the president of Black America, I'm the president of all of America? We'll let Dietrich Asante Muhammad address that when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
From Leimert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well-trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your Senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my side softer?
Can I make my side firmer whenever I want?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. 94% of Sleep Number smart sleepers report better sleep. J.D. Power ranks Sleep Number #1 in customer satisfaction with mattresses purchased in-store. And now, during our biggest sale of the year, save 50% on the Sleep Number Limited Edition smart bed. Limited time. For J.D. Power 2023 award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. To find a store near you, visit sleepnumber.com.
As fall approaches, you have a lot to prepare for. Back to school, sporting events, family gatherings, and staying on top of your health. The virus that causes COVID-19 continues to evolve. So this fall, no matter what you're prepping for, you can prioritize your family's health and make a game plan for COVID-19 vaccination. Ask your doctor or pharmacist to learn more. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here's what happens when you advertise on KBLA Talk 1580.
3, possibly 4 weeks ago, I heard an advertisement on your radio station from a company called Grid Solar. I would love to have that phone number so I can reach out to them with reference to solar panels being installed on my property.
Our listeners are aware and engaged, but more than that, they are loyal. When they hear empowering messages that uplift their community and help them live better lives, they respond. No medium reaches this coveted black audience like KBLA Talk 1580. So, hit us up today at smb@kbla1580.com and let us help you connect with our loyal listeners. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black. Money to put. Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley, the president of the Joint Center for Political and Economic Studies. Deidre Casanti Muhammad, their new report is out now. It's called The Best Black Economy in Generations and Why It Isn't Enough. Thank you, Deidre, for the space to sort of set that up. You understand why I needed a couple minutes to just sort of put the proper frame there, because this is not our first rodeo. We've done this before, where we have someone ascend to the presidency, but we are told by that person that I'm not the president of Black America, I'm the president of all of America. Well, I get that, but here you come arguing that we need a strong, targeted approach to increase economic advancement for Black folk. So I ask, is that possible, and what does that look like?
Well, and I'll put forward, this really goes back to the history of Joint Center. Joint Center has been around since 1970, America's first black think tank, and it still leads in that space. And, we've always had this mission of, coming up in 1970 as blacks are voting more, you're starting to get blacks in Congress. We recognize the importance of getting, black faces in high spaces, but we also knew there had to be a policy, an agenda that would move, that we're looking for them to move forward with others. And so if you don't have both of those things, that is when you're looking at a problem. I think one of the positive things is this isn't 2008, right? We've had, I think a lot of people at the time when Obama was running, a lot of people think a black person could be president. A lot of people thought a black person would be shot if they became near president. So there was so much kind of euphoria around just getting a black person named, Barack Obama into presidency that, that kind of almost put aside or made us forget about the policy needs. And also, too, it was still a more conservative time. I mean, but before Obama, it was Clinton. It was kind of this more conservative, government, government isn't the solution. Clinton was known more for cutting government programs than for investing in, using government programs to invest in people. I do think we're at a different time now, Obama being one of the most popular presidents, and people can see that racially, it doesn't change everything, or doesn't change even that much socioeconomically to have a black person in the White House. What can change things are the right policies. And I don't think people are going to buy in the same way that they did in 2008. I think there's still a lot of excitement. First woman president, first black woman president, first South Asian woman president. If she were to win, I see that excitement. But I also think people also understand that we have to have some, positive policies if we're going to change things. And we can go back to Kamala. Kamala put forward some strong policies that targeted black people. She had a black home ownership program when she had run last time. So I think one of the things we can do is look back at what she has run on in the past and bring it forward to her now. It is a weird situation because it's such a small amount of time where she's actually running for president. It's hard to have the full dialogue and debate that usually happens with presidential candidates.
I'm still thinking about this notion of how you target policies to advance economically black people, particularly in a moment where you have folk on the right who are suing, literally filing lawsuit against any and every program that targets black citizens, black consumers. If they identify a program that targets us, then they sue that particular outfit. You know exactly what I'm talking about. So in a moment like that, how do you advance policies economically that target black people?
Well, most of the time they're targeting programs that say specifically we are targeting black people. If you do a program that is focused on, let's say, home ownership in formerly redlined areas for first-time home buyers with, income under $80,000, you can do through socioeconomic targeting disproportionately hit the black community, disproportionately hit Latinos, and have some positive progress. So it's usually things that are outright. And again, I say fight on all fronts. I believe in outright reparations and these types of things as well. So, I want to fight on all fronts. But if you have a candidate that's scared to actually say something about black people, you can still target the policy, just like oftentimes you see policies are disproportionately targeting white people and not hitting us. Their legislation doesn't say, hey, we won't give blacks much. They just create the policy in a way to make sure that we don't get it. So we just have to do that same type of crafting our policy, except ours is to create a more equal society versus to maintain inequality.
You mentioned reparations. We'll close in a moment talking about that. There's a new report out of Harvard Harvard, that suggests that reparations could boost black wealth and black health. This is Harvard. That reparations could boost black wealth and black health. Since Dietrich went there, I'll follow him in our remaining moments when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Helping to stretch your moral and political imagination. This is Tavis Smiley.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
My mom has taken up going to the park to practice yoga.
My dad's going to a club, but not a book club, a salsa club.
Finding new hobbies comes with age.
My mom has started getting lost and not knowing where she's going.
Becoming lost or disoriented doesn't. Confusion with time or place may be a sign of Alzheimer's. An early diagnosis can help improve the quality of life for your loved one. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
Less monologue, more dialogue. Tavis Smiley continues right now.
We got 4 minutes left here with Dietrich Asante Muhammad, president of the Joint Center for Political and Economic Studies. The new report that they have co-authored is called The Best Black Economy in Generations and Why It Isn't Enough. We close on this note. Dietrich mentioned reparations a moment ago and his belief that you have to fight on every single front. Let me quote now from Mary Bassett from the T.H. Chan School of Health at Harvard. Bassett notes, Dietrich, that preliminary research findings suggest that eliminating the racial wealth gap could lead to substantial reductions in early death as well. among African Americans. I quote from her now: "We know that black people have been systematically denied the opportunities for good health that white Americans enjoy. We also know that if we close the racial wealth gap vis-a-vis reparations and improve access to key resources that influence health, we can expect to dramatically improve the health and life expectancy of black Americans. Perhaps if we framed reparations as something that would not only address the unfair gap in wealth, but that would also help us all live long and healthy lives, we could build the support we need," close quote. Your thoughts?
I will use whatever frame will get us there in order to advance reparations. People have talked about, racial health equity for decades, and I like to put forward, I'm glad Harvard is on board, but Du Bois was writing about the need for this type of economic investment in order to deal with health issues about 100 years ago.
That's right.
I think even you can find in Black Power, the Politics of Liberation, the clear connection of economics and social inequality, including health inequality, particularly in the inner city. So I think, the call for reparations just hasn't been something, for justice, or some people think about for revenge, but actually to try to make, our lives better, and one that, can more positively contribute to society as a whole. So, health equity is an important piece. Economics in a capitalist society is the center of everything, right? Social relations, health, and all of that. So this is why we need to prepare for Black Americans, for Indigenous Americans, and so you can really have them fully incorporated, involved in society in a positive, healthy way.
I've got 2 minutes left here. Tick off for me 2 or 3 things that we should be pressing the Harris-Walz administration in regards to an economic agenda for Black America.
Yeah, I would like some more details. They put forward. Well, one, I want to. I think it's strong. The earned income tax credit, the tax credit programs that our report notes would help deal with different poverty issues. I would like some more details around the home ownership program. The home ownership program seems similar to something that Vice President Harris had put forward around strengthening Black home ownership, and would love to see. Will it also have targets in formerly redlined areas? And then Algernon Austin, my co-author of this report, he is always pushing for how can the government advance more full employment by subsidizing employment, maybe for small businesses, maybe for minority businesses, and so you can strengthen minority institutions as well as we are strengthening employment levels in our community. So I think those are 3 areas. There's a lot of them. But I think the main thing is we have to push them and hold them accountable like we hold anybody else accountable.
This report is brought to us by 2 fine institutions. The Center for Economic and Policy Research, our friend Algernon Austin runs that, and the Joint Center for Political and Economic Studies, Deidre Kasanti Muhammad runs that as their president. The report, once again, is called, you can get it for yourself, "The Best Black Economy in Generations and Why It Isn't Enough." It lays out some pretty clear ideas about how we ought to be and what we ought to be pressing these candidates about and around related to the economic health of Black folk into the future. Deidre, thank you for your work and witness as always. Good to have you back on this program, sir. All the best to you.
Yes, sir. No, great to be on. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Just like that, 3 hours gone. Back here tomorrow, Lord willing, to do it all over again. Until then, thanks for listening to Tavis Smiley, and as always, keep the faith.
Santa Monica.